So I want to, with the time that we have left, I want to ask you, talk about sort of two things, and maybe they're sort of tied in the same category, but about this time last year, there were a number of things that shut down and summer programs weren't available. And so a lot of students said, well, I was going to, go to this country or this summer program and it was canceled. And so now what do I do? And people sort of didn't know how to pivot. So my question is really kind of two parts. So now that we're in 2021, what can people do for summer? And or how does one create a summer program for themselves? How do you pivot, in this pandemic?
Right. Well, that's interesting because I think one thing that I found during the pandemic is that a lot of individuals and a lot of schools pivoted. So if you have a particular interest, I was just looking at there was a great summer programs virtual fair, I guess, that I just attended recently. And I was really interested in who was in the space. So one of the organizations in the space is Sotheby's. Sotheby's is an auction house and they sell high-end jewelry and art. And it's really, they have an incredible litany of courses that they're offering virtually that teach people about art and law or solving crime and law. Like, how do you know if that painting is real? How do you know that's not a forgery? You just paid, $10 million and you bought something that somebody painted, over in Italy, some little workshop. Anyway, so there are, whether you want to do something virtually or in person, I'm beginning to see in-person options coming back. And we're all familiar with which states tend to shut things down. LA, New York, San Francisco, they're shut down. So I don't, if my students want to apply to a program and be in person, we're not applying to those programs. We're going to Texas, we're going to Utah, we're going to Florida, because they just don't, close it down. So, but we also find virtual ones. Now, one thing that was really impressive to me about creating their own sort of virtual summer program, I had a student who had a requirement for school where the school traditionally, they would ask students to go abroad and they would have a two-week experience in Costa Rica or Vietnam. And it was part of their global graduation requirement to be a global scholar. And the school still had that requirement, but the student had to find ways to fulfill that, to put themselves in a diverse situation, but it had to be virtual. So LanguageBird was really good for that. And LanguageBird, if you speak a language or want to learn to speak a language, they have free conversation groups, and you can also take a foreign language or enhance what you're already doing, or you can take the class through LanguageBird. So we did that, and he organized a group of students from his high school who were interested in Spanish, and so they started doing that. But then they found online global awareness summer opportunities. Hobie was a great one because that was 4 days. Global Leadership Congress, and any student can apply as long as they find a sponsor. And the sponsor could be your mom or dad's business, or your uncle owns, cookie business, or, you have a relative who's, selling corn on the corner over there. They don't really care what the business is. They just want you to go out there and ask a business to sponsor you. And it's as simple as an email. So the best way to pivot is to figure out, what is it that you want to learn? Where are your holes? There's no leadership, you don't have any activities. You have this passion, but you haven't demonstrated that you've taken it and created something from that passion. So I have a lot of students that have the opportunity and the privilege to attend some amazing, expensive summer programs, but it's not just attending these programs that makes a difference. It's what they create after having, and it could be a free MOOC, which is, again, if you take a class on web development and you set up, you program a website for senior citizens that helps them navigate the world, I guarantee you that Penn and Harvard are going to be more interested in you than somebody who attended, you know, a $13,000 summer program. And ultimately, it didn't seem to translate into any noteworthy activity afterwards.
So I want a follow-up question on summers, because this episode, listeners, we are recording this episode. It's early March 2021. It will air a little bit later this month. But depending on when you're listening, can you share, just for our listeners' sake, to understand, when is the best time to be applying for summer programs?
Right now is the best time.
But they open up as early as fall of,
yes,
right?
yes. So you have a lot of programs open up in December, and they've been sort of rolling out their programs. You can still find some excellent programs out there, and sort of the gold standard in if you're interested in STEM is the opportunity to do research. And there's a lot of students who go to great high schools, but they don't provide any research opportunities. San Diego, USC, Polygence, Pioneer Academics, they all have programs where they take students through the process of doing scientific research. And one of my students ended up at USC last summer. They turned their Viterbi summer research program, they turned it virtual, like on a dime. And so he was doing the experiments in his kitchen. It was amazing to watch. But it all sort of paid off because, again, he wrote a great essay for Brown, that Brown could see that this, you know, here's this kid doing science in the kitchen and speaking in what I would say is a humorous way. So there's always opportunities, but I would say that your best friend is definitely the internet.
I love all of this. Okay, so I wanted just to get that in the episode so that we understand that applying to summer programs really, you know, starts at the end of, like you said, in December and then goes all the way. And I've often shared, you know, when someone says, "Oh, I missed the deadline, it's now April or May," I say, go find the program you wanted to do, look at the curriculum, and then create it yourself. Like there's a way that you can figure that out, or go to the community college or take this course or that course or experiment in your kitchen, whatever. But you can take the curriculum of any program you wanted. Let's say you can't afford to go to that program. There are definitely ways that you can be just a self-starter and just, you know, do it. So,
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome. So I think we're pretty close. Is there anything else that you wanted to say? Because I'm going to recap some of the cool things that you've mentioned.
The one thing I would just say is, and you reminded me of it when you were just talking, that if you have a particular interest in a school, and if you can sort of find an area within a school, if it's very popular, like business, within business schools, accounting tends to be less applied to. And, you know, I had a student in San Gabriel Valley, and they're lucky because they have, you know, 2 amazing community colleges. They have Pasadena City College and Glendale City College, and they have accounting certificates. I said, if you applied to USC and you'd already completed 3 classes in accounting, they know you're real. And there's no, you know, besides plumbing probably, and fixing cars, everyone needs an accountant. You will always have a job if you if you do accounting. So always look at the community college, because here in California, you're only paying $13 a unit. That is a really affordable way to do it.
Hello. Can we talk about the cost of college? That's excellent. It's a really great point. So let me recap some of the things, because listeners, if you remember, I asked them to really talk about summer programs, and then the key, which might be why you're listening today, is the pivoting. And so I love, this is why we're two peas in a pod. A lot of what you say, I say as well. So number one, what do you want to learn? What do you want to learn?
Yeah.
Number two, what are your gaps? What are your gaps? I write that down because when I do family consultation, I say, these are your strengths, and then these are the gaps. This is what you said you wanted to do, and it's not so much. I don't see it. So you know you have a passion, but if there's no evidence, that's where you know that's a gap. That's what Vince is talking about. If you know you have a passion, but there's no evidence on your resume, there's nothing that's saying, hey, this is what I do, that's a gap. So you want to find a way to start to develop that resume of evidence that shows that you look like what you say you want to do, which is something that he said earlier. You have to look like what you say you want to do. And then finally, it's not enough to just, this is a really big point. So I'm going to look you straight in the eye. Look, if you're watching this, I'm looking you straight in the eye. This is a really big point. It's not enough just to go and do that program. It's called a summer program, or join a team, or watch a lesson, a MOOC, or LinkedIn or something. It's not enough to just do that and then say, oh, okay, I added it to my resume. That's what we would call step one. Like, that's involvement. That says, like, okay, you're adding to your resume. The impact is what counts more. So understand that once you have the information, the more important piece is that you apply it, that you do something with it, and you create something more, because you know, given your resources, what did you do? Now that you have this knowledge, what are you doing to impact a community? So that's really what I would say, that hopefully you wrote those down. So, okay, lots of tips and lots of tales. I mean, if you didn't walk away with some solid examples of what to do and how to get started, or some motivation, I don't know what to tell you. There are lots of tales that lead us down the road. But here is the real truth that I take away today. And this is all about being strategic, and why is it important? And I'm going to leave you with this. The truth is, you have to look like what you want to do, what you say you want to do. And I'm going to repeat it as many times as for you to hear me when I say that, because most teenagers and most parents will say, well, what if I don't know what I want? You have to keep putting the breadcrumbs and just follow the trail. You're right. You're not alone. Teenagers don't really know. They kind of know. And oh, by the way, nobody 3 years from now is going to say, you applied to be an aerospace engineer and now you're wanting to be a mechanical engineer. No one's going to come back and say that. Right. So just pick something that you kind of are interested in and just keep following those breadcrumbs. It will lead you to where your heart really is. Maybe before you apply to college, maybe after, we don't know. But don't beat yourself up. Give yourself some grace and some space to figure it out. And don't let the unknown be the obstacle from movement. You got to keep doing something. And that's what we mean by pivoting. So there's my truth for today.
That's great.
All right, hold tight. I'm gonna do my closing right now, and then and then I'll have you wave goodbye. All right, so thank you so much for being with us today. And gosh, don't you just love Vince? I mean, he is a wealth of knowledge, and hopefully he's been helpful for you today. So thank you for joining the conversation. We know you have a very full and busy life, and so thank you for spending time here on Destination University. To thank you, please go to my website, drcynthiacolon.com, and you have a choice of 3 free gifts. So choose the option that best serves your teen and where they are now. If this episode has in any way fueled your confidence or help build your dreams, please share this episode with 3 people in the next 30 minutes. And if you're feeling extra loving, please hit subscribe and write us a review. My mother in advance will thank you because she loves listening and reading those reviews. And remember, you can join the Facebook group no matter what age your teenager is. Facebook group Destination University, just like the podcast, is open to all parents, and you can find others who are just like you going through this process. That's all I have for you today, my dreamers. I'm Cynthia Colon. Remember to share this episode with 3 people, and wherever you are, may you have a happy and sunny day, and we'll see you right here next week, same time, same place. Bye for now. Okay, wave.